What if I told you? The strategy China spent the last 5 years building, gone in a flash. What if I told you the factories they funded across Southeast Asia are now liabilities, not lifelines? Because overnight, Donald Trump just flipped the global game board. With massive new tariffs, 10% to 40%, slapped across Southeast Asia, the world's supply chains are in panic mode. Vietnam, hit. Thailand, hit. Even transshipment routes, those secret detours companies used to dodge taxes, all taxed. And now, Chinese manufacturers are asking one terrifying question. Did we just bet on the wrong future? This isn't just about tariffs. This is about China's next big move. And trust me, they're not backing down. Let's rewind for a second. After Trump's first trade war round, Chinese companies got the message loud and clear. Relying on China alone is dangerous. So, they made a bold move, one that reshaped the global supply chain. Billions of dollars started flowing into Vietnam, Cambodia, Indonesia, building factories, training workers, shipping equipment. The strategy? Something called China Plus One. The idea was simple: keep China as a base, but build a backup in Southeast Asia. That way, if tariffs hit again, they'd have a plan B. Smart, right? At the time, it looked like a masterstroke. Nike, Samsung, Apple suppliers, everyone started riding the wave. Southeast Asia became the golden child of global manufacturing, but no one saw what was coming next. And then, boom, the game changed. Trump's latest tariff wave didn't just target China, it blanketed all of Asia. Cambodia, 19%. Vietnam, 20%. Thailand, Indonesia, not far behind. Even clever supply chain tricks like routing goods through third countries to hide their Chinese origin, dead. Trump's new policy slaps a 40% tariff on anything that even smells like transshipment. Suddenly, the safe havens China was betting on aren't so safe anymore. Here's the wild twist. China's effective tariff rate just dropped to 30%, lower than many of the Southeast Asian countries they were fleeing to. So now, Chinese manufacturers are staring at a brutal truth. Why spend billions building overseas when staying in China is actually cheaper again? The very strategy that was supposed to protect them might have just backfired. On the factory floors across Southeast Asia, silence. Mingyuan Footwear, a major Chinese manufacturer in Cambodia, just watched their orders stall overnight. Machines that once ran 24/7, now collecting dust. Over in Vietnam, sourcing firms like Dragon Sourcing, which once helped buyers shift away from China, are now reporting something shocking. That shift? It's slowing, fast. Buyers are hesitant, manufacturers are spooked, and suddenly all those grand expansion plans into Southeast Asia? On pause. Some aren't just freezing investments, they're coming back to China. Why? Because predictability has become more valuable than cost. And if you're a business trying to survive a geopolitical storm, you go where the ground feels solid, even if it's the very place you once tried to escape. The numbers are in, and they're reshaping the entire manufacturing map of Asia. Singapore got off the lightest, with just a 10% tariff. But let's be honest, it's not a mass manufacturing hub. The real pain is hitting the big players in the China Plus One strategy. Cambodia, Thailand, and Malaysia were all slapped with 19% tariffs. That's high enough to shake investor confidence, but low enough to cause hesitation. It's a gray zone, risky, uncertain, and definitely not the safe haven it used to be. Then comes the real shocker. Vietnam, the darling of foreign manufacturers, now faces a 20% tariff. That one stings the most. Billions have poured into Vietnam over the past few years. Now, every shipment out of its ports is carrying a higher price tag, and manufacturers are scrambling to recalculate their margins. And for Myanmar and Laos, it's game over. Both countries were hit with a devastating 40% blanket tariff. That level of penalty effectively cuts them out of the global supply chain overnight. No investor is touching that level of risk. Even Mexico, once seen as a safe bridge to the US market, just got caught in the storm with a 25% tariff extension. That move sent a clear message. This isn't just about Asia. This is about America First trade, period. With these new numbers on the table, manufacturers are now doing the math. The tariff differences between countries are no longer big enough to justify the massive costs of relocation. So, for many, staying in China, with its stability, infrastructure, and scale, is suddenly looking like the least bad option. For many companies, the post-tariff world has been a tough wake-up call. Some are quietly regretting their big moves to Southeast Asia. What looked like a cost-saving dream has turned into a logistical nightmare. Rising labor costs, inconsistent infrastructure, language barriers, and now those harsh new tariffs have turned the China Plus One strategy into a headache with interest. But not everyone is giving up. Take Winwood Corporation, for example. Instead of retreating, they're pushing deeper, scouting for new, obscure locations that might still slip under tariff radars. It's a bold move, but risky. As global protectionism spreads, even those fallback plans could be shut down overnight. And then, there's the high-tech edge, especially in sectors like advanced textiles, electronics, and precision manufacturing. Here's the reality. China still can't be matched. Its ecosystem, from raw materials to skilled labor to AI-driven logistics, is just too far ahead. For complex industries, moving isn't just expensive, it's impossible without sacrificing quality or speed. So while some companies are still experimenting with workarounds, many are quietly circling back to where it all began, not because they want to, but because they have to. The strategy of moving production out of China? Now full of cracks. As tariffs spread across Southeast Asia, the cost gap is shrinking. Offshoring no longer guarantees savings. It now brings higher risk, more complexity, and less control. In fact, China may be regaining its edge. With world-class infrastructure, supply chain depth, and now relatively competitive tariffs, it's once again looking like the safest bet. And full decoupling? Much harder than expected. The world still runs on Chinese logistics and capability. Trump's tariffs didn't just hit trade, they redrew the global manufacturing map. The China Plus One dream? For many, it's becoming a costly mistake. In a twist no one saw coming, staying in China might now be the smarter move. The age of offshoring isn't over, but it's definitely entering a new uncertain phase.